I never thought of myself as a difficult employee. I wasn't the kind of person who demanded attention, fired off 10 emails in a row, or hovered over management. If anything, I kept quiet, did my work, respected people's time. But at some point, I had to face an ugly truth. Sometimes all it takes is asking where your manager is for them to label you a clingy psycho. I wasn't planning to confess anything to anyone, but at some point, a story forces its way out of your throat. So, it didn't start with Lauren screaming or that humiliating moment. It started earlier, much earlier. I just didn't realize I was looking at small cracks that would eventually split the whole building. Lauren joined us from another office. She was quickly put in as project manager, and I became her direct subordinate. Young, bold, confident. People like her know how to create an atmosphere where you either feel like a student or a spectator. She knew how to smile too wide, talk too fast, enter a room like she was there to fix someone else's mistake, even though she didn't yet know what that mistake was. At first, everything was fine. I completed tasks, sent reports, got the usual. Great, moving on. But gradually she started disappearing. Not for a minute, not for a meeting, for hours. We could schedule a call at 2. I'd sit at my monitor with the document open and silence. Cold, brittle silence. And at 4:30 she'd write, "Oh, forgot, let's do tomorrow." Or, "A lot fell on my plate." Or, "The client messed up all plans." I didn't know then that this would become a rule. I thought, fine, it happens. If someone's busy, you wait. But soon her disappearances started breaking not my plans, but client deadlines. I caught myself writing her the same things over and over. "Will you have time to review the document?" "I need your approval before I send it." "Lauren, where are you? The client is waiting." Not accusations, just work questions. And every time she replied after half a day, her tone carried the same thing. Passive anger, not in the words, in the mood, as if I were the one letting her down. But that day was the line you don't come back from. We were supposed to meet in the conference room. I sat alone, laptop open. She was already 5 minutes late. I heard people laughing in the next office, doors slamming, and I waited. That kind of waiting becomes sticky anxiety. You stop feeling like a colleague and start feeling like a school kid whose teacher never explained the rules. 7 more minutes passed. The client had already messaged me twice. The document I couldn't send without her approval sat unfinished. I texted her, "Are you coming soon? We need to close the report by 4." The reply came instantly, and when my screen lit up, I felt something inside me drop. "You're being too clingy. Give me some space. Stop sticking to me." At first I thought it was a joke, a stupid, awkward joke, like the jokes she made in meetings sometimes. But the moment I reread it, heat punched my chest. It wasn't a joke. It was her real tone. Angry, irritated, as if my very existence was pressing on her nerves. I walked out of the conference room and found her in the hallway, standing by the window, chatting with someone from marketing, gesturing, laughing about something light and cheerful. No sign of being overwhelmed, no rush, just joy, a perfect mood. "Lauren," I said, keeping my voice steady, "I need your approval on the report." She turned around slowly, as if I interrupted something important, and she looked at me like I had asked her to carry me. "You again?" she said quietly, but with the kind of irritation people use when you ask them for personal money. "I told you, this is just work. You don't need to chase me, huh? You understand that, right?" People nearby fell silent. They were watching while pretending not to, and something cold washed over me. I had never begged anyone for anything. I was just doing my part. And yet in that moment, when she looked down at me like I was some sticky, needy burden, I felt something like betrayal. Small, but sharp. As if all my professionalism, all my effort, was reduced to one label. Clingy. I said only one thing. "I need to know when you'll be available. It's my job." She threw her hands up like I was attacking her. "See? This is what I mean. You're pushing again. You're too clingy. I'm not required to be available 24/7. I stepped back. Her words hit like a slap. Loud, humiliating, the kind everyone pretends not to hear, but absolutely hears. I left first. I didn't slam the door or say anything rude. I just walked back to my desk and, for the first time, felt that something here was broken. And it wasn't me. Back then, I didn't know that this scene was only the first stone in an avalanche. That ahead of me were accusations, manipulation, setups, and screaming. That her "you're too clingy" would become the trigger for an investigation I wasn't prepared for. But that day, I just sat there, listening to the buzzing of a dying ceiling lamp, trying to understand why a normal work question turned me into an enemy. Turns out, this was only the beginning. I didn't plan on becoming the guy who documents everything. I used to think people who kept screenshots, saved emails, and wrote down timestamps were paranoid. Dramatic. The type who expected betrayal in every corner. But after that day in the hallway, after she snapped at me like I'd committed some crime by asking her to do her job, something inside me shifted. Not loudly, not angrily, more like a quiet click of a lock sliding into place. I started paying attention, and that's when I realized her outburst wasn't random. It was the tip of something bigger, uglier, and much more deliberate. Because the next week, she disappeared again, and again, and again. And every time she reappeared, she came back with a new version of reality. Client changed the requirements. We're behind because you didn't remind me earlier. Next time, don't dump everything on me last minute. Dump everything? She hadn't touched the file in 5 days? I had the timestamps to prove it. But she said it with confidence. The kind that tells you she's used to rewriting the script, while everyone else pretends it makes sense. And the worst part? People nodded along. Our designer, Mia, whispered to me one morning. She said you kept pushing her, that you overwhelm her with messages. I showed Mia my phone. 3 texts over 4 days. All work-related, all polite, all unanswered. Her eyes widened. "Oh," she breathed. She didn't say more. She didn't need to. But that was just the beginning. The more I paid attention, the more the cracks multiplied. She'd stroll into the office at 11:40 a.m. with a smoothie in hand and claim she'd had back-to-back calls. I'd see her chatting on the balcony for an hour, then send a Slack message. Too slammed to join stand-up today. She'd promise updates by EOD, then vanish, leaving me to improvise answers to the client at 9 p.m. And every single time something slipped, she had the same escape hatch. Me. He didn't follow up. He didn't communicate clearly. He overwhelms me, so I shut down. It was almost impressive. She weaponized her own irresponsibility, like a shield. One Thursday morning, our analyst Mark pulled me aside. "You're not imagining it," he said quietly. "She's been blaming you for every delay in the last 2 weeks." I didn't even get angry. I just felt tired. That deep, bone-level exhaustion that comes from being rational in an irrational system. "Well," I said, "I've got receipts." And that was the moment I stopped being the guy who tries to keep the peace. Something hardened inside me. For the first time, I wasn't trying to fix anything. I wasn't trying to save the team, or her, or even myself. I was gathering truth. I started keeping a log. Not dramatic, not emotional, just facts. 9:02. Sent draft for approval. 11:14. No response. 12:37. She posted lunch photos on Instagram. 2:01. Client asked for update. 2:08. She replied, "Will review shortly." 4:55. She logged off. No commentary. No assumptions. Just reality. Preserved before she had the chance to twist it. And still, I didn't think I'd use it. Not yet. I just needed to feel sane again. Because the more I watched her, the more I understood just how good she was at being absent in all the wrong ways. She didn't disappear quietly. She disappeared messily, leaving behind a trail of half-finished tasks and half-truths. And I was the one expected to stitch everything back together. One afternoon, during a project sync she finally decided to attend, she cut me off mid-sentence. God, Evan, you are so intense lately. I can't breathe with you monitoring everything I do. I wasn't monitoring. I was surviving. I sat back in my chair, watching her talk with that offended energy people use when they know they're lying, but need the performance to land. And then she added, Honestly, I feel unsafe when he keeps asking where I am. Unsafe. She said it like I was stalking her. My mouth went dry. Even the developer next to me froze. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. The room felt different after that, like everyone suddenly realized she had crossed a line but didn't know what to do with the knowledge. After the meeting, I sat at my desk, staring at my screen, heart beating in my throat. And then out of nowhere, an email came in. Subject, quick check-in from HR Compliance. I stared at the subject line for a long time. When I opened it, my hands actually trembled. We'd like to schedule a confidential conversation regarding your team structure, your workload, and any concerns you might have about current processes. Please do not discuss this invitation with your manager. I exhaled, slow and shaky. Something was happening. Something bigger than her. Something I hadn't seen coming. And yet, as I sat there reading that email, one thought rose quietly, steadily, like a tide. She thinks she's untouchable, but she isn't. When I closed my laptop that night, I knew one thing with perfect clarity. I wasn't the one under investigation, not anymore. And this time, I wasn't going to look away. HR didn't schedule a Zoom. They didn't send a calendar invite. They just appeared. Two people in neutral colors, carrying clipboards and expressionless faces, the kind that tell you a decision has already been made somewhere far above your pay grade. Evan, do you have a moment? The woman from compliance asked. My stomach dropped, but not from fear. More like recognition, the quiet sense that all the documenting, all the watching, all the waiting had finally led to this. I followed them into a small meeting room tucked behind the finance department. Frosted glass, closed door, a notepad already opened. The man from HR operations spoke first. This is a confidential conversation. Nothing you say here will be shared with your manager. And that's when I knew. They weren't here about me. They were here because of her. I folded my hands on the table. What do you need to know? The compliance officer leaned forward. We've received multiple reports about project delays, communication breakdowns, and inconsistent leadership decisions within your team. We need your perspective. I didn't rant. I didn't complain. I didn't get emotional. I opened my folder, the one I hadn't told anyone about. A printed log, emails, Slack screenshots, timestamps, everything. I've been tracking workflow issues for the last few weeks, I said. This is the documentation. They both straightened. The compliance officer scanned the first few pages, her eyes shifting slightly. Surprise, then something sharper. She turned a page, then another. This is thorough. I'm not trying to accuse anyone, I said. I'm just trying to stay sane. They exchanged a look, a significant one. The HR man took a breath. Evan, to be transparent. We've been observing irregularities with your manager's attendance and communication patterns. Your notes help corroborate several ongoing concerns. My heartbeat ticked once, deep and solid. So I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't too clingy. There was a pattern, and it wasn't mine. The compliance officer asked a few more questions. How often does she miss deadlines? How does she react when confronted? Does she redirect blame? Has she made personal comments toward you? Yes. Yes. Every time. And yes, but the kind that hide behind professionalism, like a smirk behind a wine glass. Each answer seemed to land exactly where they expected. After 40 minutes, they thanked me, closed their notebooks, and stood. Evan, the woman said, we may need to follow up with you again. Please refrain from sharing this conversation with your manager or team, and continue documenting anything unusual. I nodded. They left, And as the door shut, something inside me fell perfectly into place. A calmness, a certainty. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. Lauren stormed into the office at 11:17 a.m. like a tornado that had somehow put on lipstick. "Where were you?" She barked at me, loud enough for 2 rows of desks to flinch. I looked at her evenly. "In a meeting." "With who?" "Compliance." Her face twitched. A small, involuntary spasm, fear, swallowed in a second. What did they want? "That's confidential," I said calmly. "They told me not to discuss it with my manager." For a moment I thought she might actually scream, but then she did something worse. She smiled. A plastic, brittle smile that didn't touch her eyes. "That's fine," she said. "I actually wanted to check in with you, too. Can we talk in my office?" The office. Her little stage. I followed her inside. She shut the door too hard, paced once, then spun around. "Are you trying to sabotage me?" "No." "Are you reporting me to HR?" "No." "You're lying." "I'm not reporting anything," I said. "I'm answering questions they asked me. If those answers reflect your behavior, that's not something I control." Her lips pressed into a thin line. She stepped closer. "You need to stop obsessing over me." I blinked slowly. "I'm not obsessing. I'm doing my job." "You're making me look incompetent." "You're doing that yourself." The words came out quiet, controlled, but they hit her like a slap. She stepped back as if I'd actually shoved her. "You're toxic," she whispered. "You're unstable. You're fixated on me. And I swear, if HR is listening to you, I will—" She didn't finish, because there was a soft knock on the door, and then the compliance officer stepped inside, with a folder, and another HR rep behind her. "Lauren," she said gently, "we need to speak with you. Privately." Lauren's face drained of blood. "Now?" "Yes, now." The compliance officer turned to me. "Evan, thank you. You can return to your desk." I walked out. The door closed behind them, and the entire office went silent. That heavy, electric silence that means everyone knows something is happening, even if they don't know what. At my desk, I opened my laptop with steady hands, because I knew, whatever happened behind that closed door, today was the day everything shifted, and this time I wasn't the one under the microscope. The next morning didn't feel like a normal workday. The office was too still, too alert, the kind of quiet that settles right before a storm breaks over a coastline. I walked in at 8:57 a.m. and immediately saw 2 things. 1, the conference room blinds were shut. 2, the head of HR, a man I'd only seen in all-hands meetings, was standing outside it with a tablet in his hands. He nodded at me, polite but knowing. I sat at my desk and tried to look occupied, though my inbox was the least interesting thing in the building that morning. At 9:13 a.m., Lauren walked in. Her shoes clicked sharply across the floor. Her face was pale and set, like someone who'd rehearsed a speech all night and still knew it wouldn't save her. She didn't look at me. Not once. She headed straight toward the conference room until the HR director raised a hand. "Lauren, this way, please." 2 security contractors stepped out from behind the printer alcove, not threatening, but unmistakably present. The air changed. People sat up straighter. Chairs stopped rolling. Keyboards stopped clicking. This was it. I didn't turn my head. I didn't need to. I could feel the tension in every inch of the room. "We'll need your badge," the HR director said quietly. Lauren froze. Her jaw trembled just slightly. "For what?" she asked. "For the conclusion of the compliance review," he said. His voice was factual, not cruel. "Your access will be disabled immediately." "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "Someone is lying about me. Evan is lying about me." My name hit the air like a thrown match, but the HR director didn't look at me, didn't even blink. "The evidence we received did not come from one source," he said. "This is the final decision. You'll have an opportunity to respond in writing." Her breath hitched. Her eyes flicked wildly around the office, searching for someone, anyone, who might jump in, vouch for her, save her from the moment crashing down on her. No one spoke. Not Mia. Not Mark. Not the developers she used to gossip with. Not the marketing guys she flirted with at the coffee machine. Not even the interns. When people see the truth clearly, they don't reach for fog. Lauren swallowed hard. She pulled her badge from around her neck with shaking hands and slapped it into the director's palm. One of the security contractors took her laptop. The other held the door open. "You can collect personal items with supervision," the HR director said. "Then we'll escort you out." She walked past my desk on her way to her office. For a moment, just a moment, she hesitated beside me. I didn't look up, but I felt her staring, and then she whispered, barely audible, "You did this." I closed the email I'd been reading, then I finally looked at her. "No," I said softly. "You did." Her throat tightened. She turned away. She left the building 20 minutes later with a cardboard box and a hollow expression. No one clapped. No one cheered. That's not how real life works. Real justice is quieter than movies. But the office exhaled, a long collective breath people didn't realize they'd been holding. And then silence, the kind that finally feels right. At noon, the HR director stopped by my desk. "Evan," he said, "could you join me for a moment?" I followed him into a small room. He closed the door gently. "We want to thank you. Your documentation was indispensable." I nodded. I didn't say anything. He continued, "In light of the reorganization, we'd like to offer you the role of interim team lead. Permanent placement will follow after the quarter review." I blinked. It took a second for the words to land. Not relief, not triumph, just clarity, clean and simple. "Yes," I said, "I can take that on. We believe you'll bring stability the team's been missing." For a moment, I felt something warm unfolding in my chest. Not pride, exactly. More like alignment, like something in my life finally snapped into its correct place. The weeks after were quiet in a way I didn't know work could be. The projects moved. The deadlines held. No missing manager, no sudden vanishing acts, no emotional landmines hidden under casual comments. People came to me with questions and left with answers. Meetings started on time and ended early. Clients stopped sounding frustrated. The team slowly unfurled, like plants finally getting sunlight after months of shade. One afternoon, Mia leaned over the divider. "You know," she said, "everything feels normal now. Better than normal. Thanks for that." I shrugged. "We all just needed space to actually work." She smiled. "You're good at this, you know. Leading." I didn't puff up at that. I didn't shrink from it either. I just accepted it. 2 months later, my promotion became official. Permanent. With a raise, no fanfare, just a signed letter, an updated badge, and a meeting where my director said, "You've earned this." And that was enough. Sometimes I stay late, not because I'm forced to, but because I enjoy the quiet. I turn off the overhead lights and let the screensaver glow across the desks. It's peaceful now, honest, steady. I think about everything that happened. Her shouting that I was too clingy. Her disappearing act. Her twisting the truth until it strangled itself. And the irony still strikes me. She wanted space. She got it. Just not the kind she imagined. Now the room belongs to the work, to the team, to the version of myself that finally stopped apologizing for expecting basic respect. I lock the office door behind me, step into the cool air outside, and breathe deeply. The evening is quiet, and for the first time in a long time, so am I. No unfinished arguments, no buzzing anxiety, no shadows waiting around the corner, just a life that finally fits. And that is enough.